This is Nicholas Burton showing his last part of the project for CSC4710 at Wayne State University. So, going down the script here, show your database has no tables. So you can see it here. If I refresh, nothing in my database. So then run the app and initialize it. So run this. Initialize it. Bring back Workbench. And refresh. We can see everything, or I have all my tables and they're full of tuples. And that is script part 1, 2, and 3. So script part 4 is to go through each part of the project. So, do that, you gotta log in. So the first part is insert, delete, update PC members. So you can do that here. You have modify, delete, and new. So to modify a PC member, type in the name, do 3, and you can either change the name or the email or both. So if I just do that, and I go to PC member, we can see John is now Jon instead of John. Okay, and say we want to just get rid of him now. Just delete him. Type that in to delete. Do PC number again, and now John 3 is just gone. So if we want to perhaps add him back, John 3 at dbexample.com. Submit that. Then bring it back. And we can see he's back, John 3 at dbexample.com. Okay, so that's insert, update, delete, PC member. That's requirement 1. Requirement 2 is update, insert, delete paper, and we have this here. So we can go into paper, have this information. So if we want to do paper 2, change it to PPR2, and maybe we want to leave the abstract the same, new PDF. And again, you can fill in as many of the changes as you want, or all 3, or only 2, or only 1. Submit that. So here we go. It's got a different title now. It's got a different PDF here. If we want to get rid of it, 2, and it brings us back to the front page there. So we just got rid of paper 2, and now it's just gone. And new paper does have a little bit of a problem. You need all the information here. So you need to have 2 authors. I couldn't get the single author to work. Let's say we have paper 11, we have abstracts, PDF here. Okay, I guess. So me, Nick at nick.com, Wayne, first author, Noah, do central, 2. Submit that. So here we can see we have the new paper with the abstract and a different PDF link. And since we were new authors, we're also put in the author table with the affiliation, and also in the written table with the corresponding paper ID and the contribution. Additionally, if you were to put something in here that already existed, it would put in the new paper, but it wouldn't create a new instance in the written, or it would create a new instance in the written, because that's how you get the contribution, but it wouldn't put a new instance in author. So requirement 3 is insert, update, delete, or report. So here it's got the similar pattern. Say we wanted to mess with report 4. And again, you can change as many things as you want. Say I just want to change it to a no. So now report 4 is not recommended. You want to get rid of report 4. Now report 4 is just gone. And if you want a new review, we gotta type in a date here. 18. Let's do today's date, 7-22. And we'll put it's a bad paper, not recommended. We have to pick an ID. Paper. We just do paper 1. And let's say, let me make sure. Oops. Okay, I apologize. I get myself confused a little bit. So the reviewers need to be PC members, and I did put myself as an author because I put in a new paper, but I didn't change the PC members, so I can't use myself here. So I have to use somebody in here. So like John 8. Yep. So here we go. We have John 8. He's looking at paper 1, and he does not recommend it. Sorry about that. Okay. So, requirement 4 is list all papers by Lou. Single or so it's a search. So I didn't do specifically by Lou. It's just a search. So so here you can just search by name for any paper that is authored by a single person. So if we want to put in John 1, show us paper 1. Because he's only authored paper 1. As you can see here. So John 1 authored paper 1. And this is for only the first author. So the first person, or the highest contribution. So if I want to search myself here, Nick, it'll come up with paper 11, I believe is what that was. So paper 11. And if I were to search Noah, it wouldn't come up with anything because he's the second author. And then for a 2-author paper, search Nick Noah. Search that, and it comes up with paper 11, which is what me and Noah co-authored together, paper ID 11. So those are requirements 4, list all papers by a single author, the only author search. 5, list all papers in which someone is the first author, so first author search. And find all papers co-authored by 2 people, which I did here. And then we have requirement 7, list the PC members who review the most number of papers. Okay, so we go back, paper properties. So we can go to most review numbers. So we have John 8. So back to review here. Okay, so John 8 has reviewed 1 as well as paper 8. So he's reviewed 2 things, but everybody else has only reviewed 1. So that's why he's there. Additionally, when using these, as you can see, it pops up a window, and I haven't been able to fix that instead of just popping up here. Okay, so that is requirement 7. Requirement 8 is list the PC members who have no papers assigned to them for review. So it's right here. So we have John 2, John 3, John 4. So you can see in review, we do not have John 2, 3, or 4 here at all, but they are still PC members. They just don't have anything to review right now. So there's that. And then that is requirement 8. So requirement 9 is list papers rejected by both PC members Matt and John. So I just did a search here. So you can search papers that have been rejected. So if I input a review here to make sure they're both rejected by them, or it's actually easiest to use a sign. So we can see in review now, we have new reviews that can be filled out. So we have the review ID 13. We can just change the recommendation to no, because that's all that we need. So here we go. We have a no and a no from John 8 and John 2 on paper 1. So we can go back to requirement 9, which is list papers rejected by 2 people. So you have John 8, John 2. I believe. Yes. So we can see that paper 1 is rejected by both of them. Okay, so that is requirement 9. Requirement 10 is a paper is considered to be accepted when it gets at least 2 recommendations. And you must define a view called accepted papers and display that. So that's here, view all accepted. And I don't currently have anything that is accepted. So if I go ahead and change report ID 12 to yes, so now we can see there's 2 yeses for paper 1. View paper properties, view accepted papers, and we can see paper 1 is an accepted paper here. So that is requirement 10. So now the next part in the script is to actually go through the source code for all of this, and to just go through the Java files. JSPs are not necessary. So back to requirement 1, insert, update, delete PC members. So over here, I have a servlet for delete, update, and new PC members. So here is the servlet for deleting a PC member, and that just goes to user service. Here, and it just goes to user DAO. Here, and it just deletes the PC number where the name is what was input in the form. And in a similar fashion, new PC member just calls user service right here, goes to user DAO right here, and it connects to the database and it just inserts the new information from the form. And then update PC member just again goes to user service right here. Oh, sorry, right here. User DAO and update PC members. And these if statements are just the if statements that check if any parts of the form are empty, and then it just updates the information with regard to the change name. So that's 1. And 2 is the paper insert update delete. So again, it's the same. This is delete paper. It goes to user service. I'm going to do this in a way that I feel like is a little faster because this is already quite long. So new paper, again, just user service. And update papers, just going to user service again. And then we can see all that right here, update paper, delete paper, new paper. And all that is in user DAO. So we have update paper here. And all these if statements are just checking for empty parts of the form, and then it just updates the information of the paper according to the title. Delete paper here, just deletes the paper with the input title. New paper inserts into paper with the information. Then it gets the paper ID that just got auto-created by this insert. And then here it inserts the new author if he doesn't already exist in the system. And then this inserts the second author if he doesn't already exist in the system. And then this inserts all their information into the written table for both authors. So that is requirement 2. Requirement 3 is the review part of that. So delete review here. I'm sorry, it's over here. So just delete review in service, in user service. New review, just user service again. And update review, just goes back to user service again. So, and those are right here. So new review, delete review, update review. And that all comes to user DAO. So here's update review. All the if statements are again just checking to see if any parts of the form are empty. And then updating the information corresponding to the ID you put in. Delete review just gets the ID and deletes the review. And the new review just inserts the information you put in and creates a new review. Doesn't have to change anything else. So that is requirement 3 code. Requirement 4 is list all papers as a single author. So that is right here. So, and here it is a bit different. So we call find single name and we get a list back, and we set that list to be called name list, which is used in the HTML side to actually display the information in a table. And then this part is just used to display the information down here, like it actually already is, or in a similar fashion to that. And then it goes back into user service. And in user service, it just calls user DAO. Find single name. Here we go. So we have some variables that are used to keep track of stuff. So to find authors that are the sole author of a paper, we have to get the email corresponding to the name, get the paper ID where the email is equal to the name, and then we count. I apologize. Let me just make sure I say this correctly. Here we count the amount of times the paper ID is seen in the written table here, and then we store that count variable. And then if it only appears once, that means that the person is the sole author, and then we put that into the table that we then see. So that is requirement 4. So the next requirement 5 is for the first author. So here again, it's the same fashion. It sets the attribute, and we go to user service to find first name. Here goes to user DAO. It's right here. So again, we have to grab the email related to the name, and then here we get the paper ID related to the email, and where contribution is 1. Because where contribution is 1, it's the first author, and then that information is the title related to the paper ID is put into the table, and that's how you get the first author search. And requirement 6 is the final papers co-authored by Zhang and Liu, and for that I did a 2-author search. Sorry. So here again, you just get the parameters from the form, and it's the same thing. It's just set the attribute to name list, and we go back to user service, and then the user service function calls the DAO function. Here it's similar again, some values that we use to keep track of stuff. We grab the email from both names, and then we use the email. We get the paper IDs related to the email, to the first email, sorry. Then we get all the paper IDs related to the second email, and then we compare all those, the two lists of IDs together, and if any of them match, those are printed out on the table. So that is requirement 6. Find papers co-authored by 2 people. So requirement 7 is list members who review the most number of papers, and display the multiple if there's a tie. So most review, it's the same thing again. Calls user service, defines it in the HTML, and in here it calls DAO. So we create the array list, and we create a variable to keep track of stuff. So here we select, or we count how many times each email appears in review, and whatever email occurs the most is the one who reviews the most papers. So we keep track of that number, and then we reverse the result set, and then anytime that number comes up again, the information or the name related to that email is printed in the table, and that's how you get the members who have the most reviews. So requirement 8 is list PC members who have no reviews. So again, the original servlet is the same. It just goes into user service, and then user service calls user DAO. Should be down here. Yep, no reviews. So here we get the names from PC members where get the names from PC member that are not in both PC member and review. That's what this SQL statement does. So that gives us the names of people who have no reviews currently out in the system. And then that name is just added to the list. And that's what we see when we create the table. That is requirement 8. So requirement 9 is list all papers projected by 2. So here again, we just call user service. Oops, sorry, it's a rejected search, I apologize. it's this one. Yep, we call user service, and we call the rejected search, and that goes to user DAO. And here finds the email of both people that had our input, and it finds the paper ID where the recommendation is or it is not recommended, and it's related to both emails. And in that list, everything is just the papers rejected by both of those authors, or both of those members, sorry. And that is printed to the table. So that is requirement 9. Requirement 10, papers accepted if there's at least 2 accept recommendations. And you must create a view for that. So here, again, it's the same. Calls user service, declares name list for the HTML part that displays the table. And it goes to service, calls DAO. Here it is. And first I have to make a review. So create or replace the view. And it's called accept. And the view contains the titles from paper where the recommendation in review is yes, and the ID from paper in review are the same, and the count of the amount of yeses is greater than or equal to 2. So it meets the requirements of having at least 2 accepts. And then, so that's just creating the view. And then it just, this statement here just selects the whole view and displays it because it's just a single column with the names. And that's how we get requirement 10. And that's all the code for the requirements. So then show the file that implements the functionality to assign 3 reviewers. No problem. So right here, it's a user servlet assign. Just gets the parameters from the form, goes over here, calls assign in user DAO. And here it finds the ID for the paper ID for the title that was input. It finds the email for each name input. And then it inserts into a review all that information. And I did already show that that still functioned earlier. And then enumerate on requirements that were not implemented. So as I said, when here, when using this, a new window pops up, which isn't meant to happen. So that is a little, I guess it's not technically a requirement not implemented, but it's a bit of an issue that it has. And then when updating papers, you do need to fill out this whole form. You can't leave any, it can't be partial. And I believe that is everything. I don't believe anything else is wrong. Thanks.